Hi, everybody. Bill Phillips here, and we are getting ready for the Preakness Stakes, and it is the second jewel of the Triple Crown. Of course, the Kentucky Derby goes to Mystic Dan. A bit of an upset, bit of a long shot, but a great run, and holds on at the end to win by a nose. Not only a nose for first and second, but a nose for first, second, and third. Tremendous Kentucky Derby race, and now it is on to the Preakness. It's the Pimlico Race Course. It is Baltimore, Maryland. It's the Black-Eyed Susans. I'm sure there are crab cakes going on in the stands as everyone watches. You think about the mint juleps. I'm not exactly sure what the drink of the day is for the Preakness, but I do know this. There's probably going to be crab cakes consumed there, so that'll be good. And it'll be a great day of racing. And joining us to break it all down is Mark Patterson from Mountaineer Casino Racetrack and Resort. He is our racing expert. It's a familiar face. We've talked to him many times about the big races, and it includes this week's race, the second jewel of the Triple Crown. And Mark, welcome. And let's just recap the Kentucky Derby. Mystic Dan gets the win. Let's just recap the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, it was a great spectacle, Bill. The cavalry charged 20-plus horses, and the tight finish, too. It was scintillating television. And, in fact, you know what I read? They had the highest television ratings since 1989, which is a testament to the enduring popularity of the whole Triple Crown thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, and the thing is with the Triple Crown, it builds. You get that win, and I always hold my breath a little bit to make sure the Kentucky Derby winner comes out healthy, and that they want to race them, because that's happened before where we're not going to race in the other Triple Crown. We're just going to do the Derby and go from there. But if you can win that, you just put the horse just goes to the top of the mountain with the other all-time greats. And does Mystic Dan, I guess my question for you right now is, does he have enough to get maybe that second jewel and continue to move along that path?
You know, Bill, when the Derby winner does not compete in a Preakness, and that has been the case increasingly, because the thoroughbred breed, to be honest about it, just is not as durable as it was in those thrilling days of yesteryear. And there's increasing talk every season that there needs to be more spacing between the races. So people do hold their breath that the Derby winner is going to come back in the Preakness. And if the Derby winner doesn't, it kind of deflates the whole balloon. Although the Preakness is the standalone stakes, has a long tradition. In fact, it predates the Kentucky Derby. But when you get that Derby winner in the Preakness, and there is anticipation of a potential Triple Crown winner, the whole thing just really lights on fire, and interest runs really, really high. Mystic Dan will probably be the post-time favorite now in the Preakness, because the morning line favorite, and that's a racing term, that simply means the horse that has been tabbed is the likely public favorite by the track odds maker at Pimlico, has been scratched, a horse named Muth. Strangely enough, Mystic Dan may not have been the actual favorite, but in the absence, with the defection of the Bob Baffert trained Muth, then Mystic Dan will probably rule the post-time favorite, and should prove very formidable in this race. He's not any kind of a cinch. In fact, there is some bona fide opposition to Mystic Dan. Some people consider his Derby win a little bit on the fortunate side, because he got a ground-saving trip, the shortest way around there, and an unfettered voyage, which is unusual when you have a behind-the-pace style like
he really did. He was on that rail most of the race, and he never had to get off the rail. Never really got bumped around too much. And then your second and third play horses, they're coming from all the way outside.
Absolutely.
And it's just so much ground to cover.
So he had a lot of racing luck, did Mystic Dan.
Yeah.
But also, I will say this. I don't want to get too technical, but speed figures, which drive the bets and drive the odds in horse racing, favor Mystic Dan. Mystic Dan is the fastest horse, and more than once, in terms of sophisticated final time measures. In this Preakness, he has done something called the triple buyer, which is quite a feat indeed, a couple of times, which none of his classmates, so to speak, in this Preakness have managed. You know what? There are a couple of really compelling storylines, though, Bill. Not just the Mystic Dan potential second leg of the Triple Crown win thing, but Bob Baffert, who was the conditioner on Muth, who's been scratched, will still be represented by a horse named Imagination. And Imagination has something Mystic Dan does not. It is something which is proven critical to victory at Pimlico, whereas a lot of times the Kentucky Derby goes to a horse with a lot of stamina. They can come from behind and pass foes. The Preakness tends to favor early speed. Horses
Hmm.
can get clear of traffic, get out there and wing it. And Imagination, the horse that Bob Baffert will run in this Preakness, has that in abundance. He's got a lot of heart. He's carved out quite a classy record in his own right and does possess that key component of early speed, which Mystic Dan does not.
I saw he's right now. The last time I checked, he's a 6-1 favorite. Those are his odds, and second in the Santa Anita Derby. Can you explain? I think people forget the great thing about the Triple Crown, or one of the obstacles for the horses. The great thing for the racing fans is the Kentucky Derby is its own track at Churchill Downs. Then of course you have Pimlico. It's a shorter track and the turns are a bit tighter. And then you
Yes.
have the marathon of the Triple Crown at Belmont.
The
Can
Belmont's
you
big.
explain how
Yeah.
that can create problems for different horses? You mentioned the speed, Mystic Dan, but he's not necessarily that long distance horse where he had that nice ride, but here he's going to need that speed. And then if he's fortunate enough to win, all of a sudden he's got the marathon to run.
Well, the Triple Crown is by no means an assumption or a fait accompli for Mystic Dan, even if he
Oh,
does
not at
win the
all.
Preakness, because that's what makes it so tough, Bill. That's why only 13 horses in the history of thoroughbred racing in America have managed to pull off the vaunted triple. It's because they are three very different tests, three grueling tests, and kind of squeezed in just a 5-week window. It takes durability, it takes class, it takes some versatility. Although, you know what, Bill? A storyline that's going to probably rival that of Mystic Dan's potential Triple Crown success is going to be the presence of Bob Baffert. It is no
Yep.
secret that he's been banned a couple of years from Churchill Downs. He's been persona non grata there for various drug offenses, and he wants in the worst way. And this is a guy that's won more Preakness stakes. Bob Baffert, kind of the rock star of
Yep.
thoroughbred trainers, the gray-haired guy with the white hair. Everybody
The
knows
gray
him.
hair,
He's
the
an institution.
glasses. He's got the swag.
And he wants to reign on the Churchill Downs parade in the worst
Mhm.
way. He wants to
Yep.
beat the Kentucky Derby winner with Imagination, no question about that. And it would be kind of redemption for him, kind of a way to just say, hey, look, I'm still the man, so to speak, and I should have been at Churchill Downs to begin with.
Now, I've got a question for you. Now, we've been talking about the Preakness, and we'll get back to the Preakness and maybe who you think people should put their money on.
Yes.
But you are at Mountaineer, the
Yes.
casino racetrack and resort, and the great thing is this weekend, you're telling me that there's going to be a card. So if you want to go and watch the Preakness and see some live racing, we can roll that all into one on Saturday.
Yeah, we kind of step aside in favor of the second jewel of the Triple Crown, the Preakness, on Saturday. We don't have a Saturday card. Although I want to hasten to inform your viewers, sir, that they can come to the Mountaineer Grand Hotel, which is well appointed with the simulcast center. They can be comfortably seated with a lot of big screen TVs and access to plenty of betting windows. And there'll be a festive atmosphere, and they can kind of mix in to the whole Preakness feel on Saturday. And then
Mark, I
we hope
have to admit, I have done that on a number of occasions, more than once. It really is a good time. Everybody's into it. Everybody's ready to go, and a lot of hooting and hollering and screaming when they're coming down the stretch.
And then we want them to keep the good times rolling once they're in a racing mood with a more up close and personal thoroughbred experience, because we have a Sunday card,
Okay.
which interestingly enough, with the grand tradition of the Preakness, is going to commemorate our 73rd anniversary. Mountaineer was inaugurated in 1951, and our feature race, I think the name is the Waterford Park Slash, and that was the name of this facility back at its inception and forever. And it is named the Waterford Park Slash Mountaineer Purse, and it's going to pay homage to our own long and storied tradition of thoroughbred horse racing. And we've had a very popular meet so far. We are handling maybe upwards of 1.2 million, 1.3 million a day, which is just amazing for venue Mountaineer size. It's a testament to the enduring popularity of our horse racing program. And as the weather gets better and people like to come out under the lights and sit on the apron, because we did pioneer nighttime racing, it's only going to escalate in popularity, sir.
Now, the one thing that I want to touch on as we're taking a look at the Preakness, we're taking a look at the Sunday card at Mountaineer. with the Waterford race, the special race to commemorate the 73 years. I do have to mention a grandmother-in-law of mine, or actually grandmother-in-law of mine. She would tell me stories about going to Waterford all the time.
Oh
She loved
yeah.
to go to bet
Oh
on the
yeah.
ponies. So this would be a weekend that if she were still here, she would definitely be going. But one of the things that we're going to have a little bit later on in the summer, the West Virginia Derby
Yes.
is at Mountaineer, and that's going to be another big card that everyone's looking forward to.
Yeah, that's the anchor of our racing season, and it's going to be a nighttime card, just like it was last year. And it's better that way because that is more in keeping with the tradition of old Waterford and currently Mountaineer. It's going to be the first Sunday, because we're going to kind of avoid the path more trodden, more taken. There's less competition for the wagering dollar, and we can get more eyeballs and more national publicity by running the race on a Sunday night. And it is a grade 3 event. It's a $500,000 purse. And we will attract all the thoroughbred luminaries, the top trainers, the household names. And you know what? Some of the horses, too, that you're going to watch tomorrow in the Preakness, because our Derby is a 3-year-old race, just like the Triple Crown. And I would say some horses that also ran in the Kentucky Derby. So it's going to be some familiar horses, some familiar trainers, a really festive occasion. Ladies will be out with the hats on and everything else. And just a fine time to be had by all, Bill.
Now, one of the most recent ones, I believe, Songbird came and ran.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure.
And didn't do real well, from what I recall.
No, it's not easy to win the West Virginia Derby. Horses don't come in from more vaunted races and Triple Crown events and just phone it into the West Virginia Derby. We make you run, baby, for the money.
It'll be interesting to see that field, because that always is an interesting field to look at, because
Absolutely.
you get some of the rock star horses that come from a Derby or a Preakness or a Belmont. So that's always exciting. And then just the magnitude of trying to win the West Virginia Derby.
Yes, absolutely. We even had a Kentucky Derby winner come to the West Virginia Derby once. Mind that bird.
Yep. Oh yeah, I was there for that. I remember that was a beautiful horse.
So our race is prestigious in its own right, Bill.
Absolutely. We're looking forward to that in August. We're looking forward to the Belmont. We're looking forward to all these things, but we're going to focus right now. Final couple questions. And Mark, I can't thank you enough for joining us. I look forward. Hopefully we can do this again before the Belmont, a few more times before the West Virginia Derby. But I want to specifically ask you if you're going to give advice or some hints to the wagering public. Who are you looking to maybe put those greenbacks on this weekend if you want to score a few dollars?
Yeah, I am not a sentimentalist, believe it or not, even though I'm a traditionalist and love the mountain, no question about it. I would bet on imagination to beat Mystic Dan. Mystic Dan is going to take a lot of money because he won the Derby, and sentimental money because people much desire a Triple Crown winner. But I think imagination has been primed specifically for the Preakness. And the last 4 Preakness winners, by the way, Bill, avoided the rigors of the Kentucky Derby, which I think is going to be an increasing trend in thoroughbred racing. I think Bob Baffert is laid low in the weeds, so to speak, and wants to avenge himself on the Churchill Downs powers that be in the very worst way. And again, imagination does possess early speed, which Mystic Dan does not. Imagination is going to be a lot lower than the 6-1 morning line that has been quoted on the horse, because with the defection of his stablemate, who has been scratched Muth, that gives imagination a premium on the same early speed that Muth would have brought to the table. So I think imagination is going to step up and be the second favorite in the wagering, and might be the horse that I would bet my money on.
All right. Now, if we're looking for a long shot, I'm looking at 220 to 1s. Uncle Heavy. I just like Uncle Heavy's name. And that's one of those ones where, as just a knucklehead, hey, I like the horse's name, or I like the horse's color. And sometimes it works out. Most times it doesn't. But who do you have as a long shot that might, maybe not win the race, but maybe gets a second or third finish?
I'm not sure this horse is going to be a long shot per se, but I think the horse will offer what is termed value by racing insiders. In other words, maybe have a better chance than the odds board would lead you to believe. And that would be Catching Freedom, who had a very troubled trip in that, again, cavalry charge, highly congested Kentucky Derby, made a good run to lose by less than 2 lengths. And I think it's better than that race looks on paper. He is
Okay.
the 3-horse Catching Freedom.
All right. Well, one last question about the Preakness before we let you go. Smaller field, tighter turns and everything, but with the smaller field, breaking from the gate shouldn't necessarily be an issue. I mean, track position early shouldn't be as big a deal as it is for the Derby, or is it because of the tighter turns and the way the track, the distance of the track and the way the track's set up?
It is said that the horses like American Pharoah and Stalwarts are like Affirmed and Secretariat runners like that aside, the best horse rarely wins the Kentucky Derby because it does come to racing luck to a large degree with so many horses. In the Preakness, presumably, knock on wood, the best horse is going to win it. Whereas I think a lot of the wise guys think the best horse did not win the Derby, that the best horse often does not win the Derby. And the Preakness might be a more fair test. The start's going to be critical. It always is in horse racing, Bill.
Yep.
So anytime you bet on a thoroughbred horse race, you hold your breath at the start, because when you take maybe 10 tons of jittery thoroughbred horse flesh and just cut them loose from a standing start, they can swerve, they can weave, they can duck to and fro, and all kinds of things can happen, unpredictable things. But, the chaotic nature of thoroughbred racing is, in large part, its appeal, too. It's part of the deal. It goes with the territory.
All right, last comment I'll make, see if you agree with this. You hear that, they have as many microphones as they possibly can around the racetrack for these, Triple Crown races and everything, and you can hear the thunder of the horses, the cavalry charges you mentioned.
Yes.
If you want to experience that in person, you need to get up to Mountaineer, because you can stand right down on the rail and you just hear that thunder. And that's one of my favorite things, as much as it is to watch, just the sound of, coming down the stretch with a field of 10 horses. It sounds like thunder coming down the racetrack. I don't know if you agree with that, but the whole, maybe I'm a little romantic about horse racing, but the whole experience is great.
That is a really incisive observation, Bill. And I always recommend that newbies to horse racing come trackside, even drive over to the backstretch and stand in the grass, because the sights, the sound, the fury, so to speak, of a thoroughbred horse race is indescribable until you've witnessed it up close and observed it, and certainly give you a different perspective when it's up close, when it's personal, when it's right in your face. I would like to maybe describe it as controlled violence and fury, but in a very good way, in a highly competitive way, Bill. And it's an aspect, it's a dimension of thoroughbred racing that you can never experience on a screen, either at home or in a simulcast center or watching on a computer somewhere. It's very real. It is very up close. It's very personal. And there is just a great urgency when you hear the jockeys screech and yell at their mounts, encourage their mounts, and you hear the hoofbeats. You hear the horses snort and gasp for air, and just the immediacy of it will take your own breath away. It really, really will, Bill.
It really does. Mark, can't thank you enough. Again, it's Mark Patterson of Mountaineer Casino Racetrack Resort, and we previewed the Preakness this week. Hopefully, in a couple of weeks, we'll be able to do it again with the Belmont, and then we'll get everybody ready for the West Virginia Derby. Mark, I can't thank you enough. Again, greatly appreciate your time, my friend.
It has been my pleasure, sir. Hopefully, we can do it again.
All right. Talk soon. All right, everybody, we're getting ready for the Preakness this weekend, and you can catch it on WTOV 9 starting at 4:30 in the afternoon. That's when coverage begins. Post time is set for 6:57 at Pimlico Racecourse, and it will be the Kentucky Derby winner, Mystic Dan, trying to get that second leg of the Triple Crown. You can catch it all on WTOV 9 starting at 4:30 in the afternoon on Saturday. The Preakness Stakes, everybody. They're running for the Black-Eyed Susans right now. We're going to say so long. Remember, 2 rules. Have fun and always try your best.